This is going to be a video with no answer, or at least not an answer from me. And I don't know if I'll ever really get a solid answer on this. But one of the things I see all the time is people talking about solo heroes versus multiplayer heroes in Marvel Champions. And obviously, every hero can physically be played solo, and every hero can physically be played multiplayer. And this is one of the things that people talk about a lot of times of why this is only like a multiplayer game and it's not really a solo game, which I fully disagree with. That might have been the case when it first came out, but I don't think that's really true anymore. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is because there's been a lot of talk about Jubilee, and I haven't done my review yet, but I have played her a couple times now, off stream two-handed solo or two-handed multiplayer. And one of the things when I was playing her on stream solo, which if you haven't joined the community, make sure you go do that over at twitch.tv/G20 where you can hit the follow button, turn on notifications, all that fun stuff. Anyway, one of the things people say all the time is that, oh, well, she's more of a multiplayer hero than a solo hero. Well, again, I've only played her right now as I'm making this video. I think it was 2 times now as a multiplayer hero, and she, in my opinion, is not good at that either. And it got me thinking, and this is something I've thought about randomly throughout the Marvel Champions life cycle, is what is a multiplayer hero versus a solo hero, right? We throw around these terms all the time, and I don't think we ever actually define the term. And I know some people will say, well, it's to make up the weaknesses of the multiplayer hero, right? Like the multiplayer hero has so many weaknesses that they need another person there who's strong at those things, and then thus they will be a good hero. But to me, that really doesn't make them a multiplayer hero. It makes them a weak or bad hero that just needs somebody to supplement them who is much stronger and better, right? Maybe a fun theory, I guess, would be taking 2 multiplayer heroes and playing them at the same time and see if they work well together. But I don't know if many people do that. Maybe they do. And if you have, let me know down in the comments because that'd be interesting. I also feel like other times people go, well, it's somebody as a hero that's really well focused in just one thing. Think of like Hulk, right? Hulk is really good at smashing things and destroying it. So if you have a multiplayer game where somebody does everything else, but Hulk is amazing at that one thing and can just handle that one thing, he's pretty solid. Okay, that's a decent argument. People will make that argument with Valkyrie too, with minion slaying. I don't necessarily agree with it, but they make the same argument, and I get the point. Anyway, I bring this up because this is just a thing that's thrown around in the community all the time. Oh, they're just a multiplayer hero. They're just a solo hero. And I feel like so many people are defining it so many different ways. I want to really quickly pop over to Jubilee. This isn't a review of Jubilee, but some of my frustrations with her as a solo player and even as a multiplayer, and then kind of compare it to other heroes who are quote unquote more multiplayer oriented. So really quick, we have up Jubilee's page. And one of the things that I think a lot of people, actually, let's go War Machine and Nebula are the other 2 that I have up. A lot of things I think people talk about with a multiplayer hero versus a solo hero is that the quote unquote multiplayer hero will be needing to flip down a lot. Now, you can make this argument with a lot of heroes that a lot of heroes need to flip down to alter ego. Obviously, some more so than others. But like, for example, Nebula's kind of whole hook is that after you play a technique upgrade, you get to draw 2 cards. Her techniques won't trigger on her hero side, so you can have a bunch of them out there. And then when, she finally does all of her technique things like Cutthroat Ambition, right? It removes the threat and whatever, or like you stun and confuse an enemy or whatever, right? Like a bunch of different things happen. That's kind of her thing. So yeah, she needs to flip down, and it's game wise easier to flip down in multiplayer. Obviously, you could still do it in solo. There's so many cards out there now that helps the solo player flip down and do things. So that's not even really like a thing as much anymore. Obviously, it's still like, I guess, the biggest challenge, but the game makes up for it with stun and confused statuses, which are obviously way stronger in solo than they are in multiplayer. But anyway, her whole hook is that she flips down to draw the cards, right? Card draw is king in this game. So you want to draw these cards, especially if you flip down early, play your technique, and you have a bunch of other things to play, like not events, but like, allies or different upgrades or supports or different things. Then it's really strong. And then you can start your next turn and draw 2 more cards, and you have 2 techniques out there, right? Yada, yada, yada. You can kind of see how the process goes with Nebula. Now, Nebula can be done solo because she's got a pretty good stat line, right? A 2-2-2 stat line is pretty good. She actually has a really strong, or in my opinion, a pretty strong signature ally. Cutthroat Ambition is, I'm sorry, Nebula Ship, I'm reading ahead. Nebula Ship is good for a resource generator, which she needs to play a lot of her events or upgrades in this case. And again, giving her the ability to remove 3 threat on this is pretty strong. Piercing is really strong nowadays. Overkill's okay. Ignoring all those guard, patrol, crisis icon keywords for solo is massive, right? So, and choosing either stun or confuse an enemy is really, really big and important because, like we just said, status cards are massive in this game. Weapons Master, adding the extra stat attack line, like, it's fine, but it gives her a tough status, which can be really nice. And the Weapons Master does some attack and gives her retaliate. And then Wide Stance reduces the amount of damage. Yeah, I mean, you know the cards, right? And then what is it? Lethal Intent, that lets you trigger the upgrade so you can do it multiple times, right? It's fun in the way that she works, but she can still work solo pretty well. But obviously her flipping down is like the key, right? Her flipping down is the key to kind of make that work. And again, that's why people will consider her a better multiplayer hero than a solo hero. But I don't want this video to be like, you can't play Nebula solo. You absolutely can. It's a little more niche, but it can be done. I think the same argument can be said for War Machine as well, right? When he flips down, you choose a War Machine card in your discard pile and shuffle it into your deck. By the way, this is only once per phase or round. I forgot which one they were. It's errata, so you can't just like do that. But it's really also to get you more ammo counters, right? Because after you change your hero form, you get 5 ammo counters on War Machine. You can also stack them on munitions bunkers, so you get more munitions there. So if you flip down to alter ego, you get 2 by exhaustiness. Then your next turn on your alter ego side, you're up to now 4. And then you can move that 4 to your hero, so you're up to 9, which is absolutely massive. Each time you flip, upgraded chassis will give you a tough status card, which is really good if you're flipping a ton, which is what you should be doing, right? And then all of his cards kind of trigger off of, not that one, missile launcher and such, trigger off of him having these ammo counters, right? So in order for War Machine to work, he needs to flip down and do the thing, right? Do the ammo counter thing. Now, this brings me to Jubilee, because again, I've been seeing nonstop that Jubilee is this better multiplayer hero, and I don't think she's quote unquote better in the same way that War Machine or Nebula is. And I've seen a lot of like arguments now online about this because look, I'm going to be honest. All right. I'm just going to get my biases out of the way. I like Jubilee as a character. I don't like her in this game. I don't like her design. It doesn't click well with me. And I know other people love her, and that's awesome, right? That's totally cool. Not judging anyone whatsoever. We all have our different styles. But I feel like there's been this weird argument that I've seen crop up of just people claiming that she's much better in multiplayer, but they're kind of conflating the two different ways of looking at a multiplayer hero versus a solo hero. So anyway, when we compare her to War Machine and Nebula, her flip down thing doesn't really exist, right? You would search your deck for shopping spree, player size scheme, and put it into play as long as it's in your deck. If it's in your discard pile, then you can't really look for it. So you can already see she doesn't have the same thing as like Nebula or War Machine does. Now, one of the big cards for her for flipping down is Wolverine gets to heal 3, which by the way, can I just do a quick pet peeve? It really annoys me that Wolverine basically needs to have an upgrade attached because you can deal 2 damage, and I guess you're supposed to thwart 1 with Wolverine after, but no one's going to thwart 1 with Wolverine, right? 3 damage is so much damage. So you have to put an attachment on them so you can attack twice, and then you can flip down. So it basically forces Jubilee, if you do the Wolverine strategy, to flip down constantly. Same with Shopping Spree, right? This side scheme is kind of forcing you to flip down unless you get supports out there from the Justice aspect or somebody else is in alter ego or whatever. This is kind of what's forcing you to flip down so you can get a couple of item cards out there. Obviously, for some heroes, this is a very strong card. For others, not so much. But past that, right, like there's not a lot of cards that interact with the flipping down. You could argue that with Blinding Flash, or well, they're not even showing Firecracker, or there's a lot of Firecrackers. Flash of Light, they're not going to show that. But with Flash of Light, right, it confuses the enemy. That as a solo player, this helps you flip down. I get that argument. But to me, it doesn't seem like she has that same kind of that same kind of like direction that other quote unquote multiplayer heroes have. Now, again, we've kind of distinguished this, right? There's the multiplayer hero that needs to flip down a lot because they have a lot of alter ego stuff going on. I guess Jubilee kind of has that thing going on, but I don't really fully see it. Like she does like a little bit, and maybe early on with the shopping spree. Maybe if you're running a teammate who has a lot of item cards that you really kind of need, like maybe that's the angle with it. but that's really it, in my opinion. And then you have kind of the ally who's so, or I'm sorry, the ally, the heroes that are so incredibly good at one thing. Again, pulling out the Hulk example. Hulk obviously, absolutely can be run solo and can be actually run solo really well nowadays because of the cards that are out there. But he's so incredibly good at smashing things to bits, right? Dealing 13 damage without even trying, that he's so incredibly strong at that as a multiplayer hero, it makes more sense because you can just focus on this one thing you're really good at. Jubilee is kind of this weird in between to me with this of she's like a jack of all trades, master of none almost type of thing, but I can't get the thing to work. But it feels like they're trying to do like a little bit with the alter ego thing. They're trying to do a little bit with the stun and confused thing. They're trying to do a little bit of that. And it's just, it feels weird. It feels kind of weird to me. So anyway, this isn't really just like a I hate Jubilee or whatever video. I'm sure that will come with my review. But this is more, I want us to try to define a quote unquote multiplayer hero versus a solo hero, because I like I said, I just feel like this gets thrown around so much that we're all talking about different things at this point. Now I know this is more of like a weird rant discussion video, I guess. And I wish I had a solution, but to me, the closest solution to this is that there are different types of multiplayer heroes and different types of solo heroes, right? Again, can Jubilee be played solo? Absolutely, right? The status cards allow her to do that. If you lean into the status cards and you have other ways of in my opinion, dealing more damage because she needs help with some damage, she can obviously be done well in solo and can work. And this is why when people say like, oh, she's much better in multiplayer, is she? That's really the question. Like when somebody says like a hero is much better in multiplayer, are they? Why and how? Is it that they're truly, that their strengths need to come through in multiplayer, or that they're needing to be carried by a much stronger hero? And I feel like like I said, there's a lot of argument. And I don't want to pull it out specifically because I don't want to bring up the negativity on the screen, right? But you can glance around on social media and whatever and see it. But there's just people that are having this discussion, and again, I think it's worth having. I want to know how you all approach this when you say a multiplayer hero versus a solo hero. And I want to clarify too, I don't think there's a wrong answer, right? Obviously, this is a different answer for each person. If you put your opinion, like don't trash somebody else's opinion. Like there is no right answer, and there is no wrong answer, in my opinion. I think we all just use it kind of generally speaking, but because we don't really define the thing, no one knows what each other is talking about. Because I've only covered a couple of possible ways that this could be talked about. Maybe there's more, right? Maybe there's more that I just don't know about. And that's why I also want to hear that stuff. So anyway, I just want to talk about that because this is a thing I've been seeing a lot more online of just like, they're a solo hero or they're a multiplayer hero and they only work in multiplayer, but they would be much better in this, but they're bad at and like, I feel like we're kind of just talking past each other without actually having a discussion about it. So that's the whole point of this video. It's just a really random video. Hopefully you enjoy these random conversations. But anyway, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Put down in the comments. I want to know your opinions on what makes a multiplayer hero versus a solo hero. I'm genuinely kind of interested in that definition. And I'll see you all next time.